about landforms and how that affects us and how it affects animals and the way that they are able to adapt. So let's begin. The first thing that we need to do is be aware of the meaning of the word landform. We need to learn our vocabulary. We need to understand what plains, mountains, volcanoes, hills, plateaus, valleys, peninsulas, and can't forget islands. We need to know what those things are that surround us so that we can talk about them and we can learn about them and understand how fossils were developed because of these different landforms. The first thing we need to know is that there's different types of landforms and the way that they form. We have constructive processes and we also have destructive processes. Let's start first with our constructive processes. We have the crustal deformation, we have volcanic activity, we also have sediment deposition, and the examples would be a crustal deformation would be how there's folds in mountains. Volcanic activity, the example would be a plateau. To have sediment deposition, that would be the coastline. Now, if we have destructive processes with our landforms, it would be like the weathering and erosion, which would be seen in the examples in like the Grand Canyon or on islands like in Hawaii or even in valleys where you live, in between where the mountains meet up. That little stretch of land there is called a valley. Great, let's move on. So these are pictures and the words and information that goes along with each of those things that we discussed just briefly before. This is a picture of a plateau. It's a large, flat-topped area of land, taller than the surrounding land. You all know what a river is, so we don't need to read what that is. We all know what hills are. Just know that they're rounded elevations of land, smaller than a mountain. We've all seen and experienced what a desert is, but just know it's dry, barren regions, often rocky and sandy, where few plants grow. Also, in regards to valleys, again, a definition would be low land surrounded by hills or mountains, which I discussed just shortly. And then landforms, as landforms, would be a natural feature on Earth, which includes both the land and the water. Couldn't read that very well. Here's some more landform vocabulary that's good to know. What is an island? Well, if somebody asked you that, you probably can picturize it. You can probably picture that in your mind's eye. It would look something like this, but it really is a piece of land completely surrounded by water. What is a valley? Well, we looked at one right over here. That's a drawing or an illustration, but this is an actual photograph of what a valley would be, where you can see the mountains on either side, or it could be hills, and a lot of times the river flows between that land space. It says a low area between hills and mountains, often where a river flows. We all know what a lake is. It's definitely a large body of water surrounded by the land. A canyon is a deep valley with steep walls shaped by a river. And a beach. Don't we love beaches? Well, beaches are gently sloping shores next to a body of water washed by waves and covered by sand and pebbles. Great. This is showing you a drawing what each of those terms would look like if we were to draw it on land. So, of course, the top is the mountain, and the snow that covers it is typically called glaciers. We have the valley between the two mountains. The canyon that is usually eroded by wind and also by rivers, usually erode the canyon area. We also have little mountains called hills. Our coastline is here. You can see it has a slope to it where the waves are washing up and washing back on that shoreline. We also have a cape, our continental shelf, and don't forget the islands. If you want to give yourself a little quiz, why don't you read these definitions and see if you could match it with the vocabulary term. Good luck with that. And the last thing I thought I would just review, I know you've talked about the water cycle before, probably like in first grade, but I just wanted you to see how all of our landforms work together to create our water cycle. The water cycle is a cycle that is continuous. It is about condensation, it's moisture that gets trapped somewhere, and then at some point it gets so heavy it drops in the form of precipitation, which could be rain or snow. and then it runs down into lakes, which run into rivers, and then with the heat, the surrounding heat is evaporated back up into the atmosphere, and it starts over and over again. So the term for, or I guess the definition for the water cycle is the cycle of processes by which water circulates between the Earth's oceans, atmosphere, and land, involving precipitation as rain and snow, drainage in streams and rivers, and return to the atmosphere by evaporation and transpiration. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson today. It was brief, but I just felt like as we're studying more about animals and how they adapt, it's important to know a little bit more about their habitat and how that impacted, or how it impacts our animals and the extinction of animals. And then thousands and millions of years ago, the fossilization of animals. Well, I hope that you had fun learning this lesson with me. I know I did. And until next time, boys and girls, I hope you have a great day. And always remember that you are a scientist, and that science rules, and that you can make a difference in this world too, and be a caretaker for our world as you learn more about landforms and how to help save the animals that live on our land. Have a great day. Until next time, bye-bye.